Ah, Lata, nice to see you. All the way from Florida. Wonderful. Yes, sound is here. It hasn't gone anywhere. It was just not activated. That's all. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So since you didn't hear the prayer, I will do the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are in the section where Narahari, the writer of the Bodhasara, refers to these 8 verses in the Bhagavad Gita. So we took a little detour and we are towards the close of that section there in the 12th chapter, the last 8 verses of the 12th chapter, describing the not just the Jnani Lakshana. Jnani Lakshana means the characteristics or the definition of the one who has self-knowledge. Not just that, that was in the 2nd chapter. In the 12th chapter, what is discussed at length is how the Jnani is nothing but a Bhakta. So the lines between Bhakta and Jnani are obfuscated totally, because here we are talking of what the Jnani Bhakta is like. So we are on verse 17, we have to, from 17 onwards we have to see. First we'll chant that. If you have your Gita books, you can look at chapter 12, verse 17 and chant with me. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, shubha shubha parityagi, bhaktiman yassa me priyah. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, shubha shubha parityagi, bhaktiman yassa me priyah. Very very simple to understand and profound also, and some of it has been already talked about. And nahrishyati does not get ecstatically elated when shubham prapya, when something auspicious and something the person ishtam, when something the person likes is gained, a person hits the roof, hits the ceiling. And then what happens? When something that one dislikes is gained, what happens? Dveshti, hates it. So this is what is called the yo-yo life. Yeah, yo-yo life of the samsari is like that. The yo-yo life of the samsari, one day up, another day down, another day up, another day down. So it's just like that old, yo-yo which the children used to play with. And so exactly like that, it goes up and down all around, and there is no steadiness. But here, what is talked about is either the bhakta who has gained so much antahkarana shuddhi and has been exposed to the knowledge and become a jnani, or a person who was not a bhakta, who was exposed to the knowledge, has become a jnani and has discovered bhakti in the process. Doesn't matter, because the two are indistinguishable, says the Bhagavad Gita and says Narahari also. And so this jnani bhakta here is na hrishyati. Hrishyati means, priyam prapya. When you get something that you like, there is a sense of elation. For whom? For the samsari. Oh, for the samsari bhakta, you can say that. Samsari bhakta is definitely better than just plain old samsari. And so, you can say that. For the samsari bhakta, the person who is a bhakta, but in the process of gaining the knowledge, this harsha and, what is that? Dvesha will be there. Because the whole point of life is to keep gaining things that are comfortable, things that are desirable. Yeah. And then uh, to get dejected when things don't go one way, or to be filled with resentment, hatred, fear. All that is these are all samsara lakshanani. These are all the definitions of samsara, the individuating characteristics, the special what's the word, hallmark. The hallmarks of samsara include this dejection and elation, and we had already seen that earlier. Harsha marsha bhayodvegaihi muktah yah same priyah. Earlier we had seen this. Harsha and amarsha and bhaya, udvega, all these afflictions, the one who is free. We had already seen this. But obviously, Lord Krishna thinks this yo-yo tendency is very important to address again, and he does so again from a slightly different angle. And what is this angle we have to see, because there's no point in discussing the same thing we discussed last time or the time before when that verse came. So we have to find a different meaning. And because the Veda, which the Bhagavad Gita is like with the Veda, that's why we say iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu. It is equated to the Upanishad. It's given the status of the Upanishad because it has the same purport as the Tatparya of the Upanishad and the Tatparya of the Bhagavad Gita are indistinguishably one, which is to unfold Moksha Shastra, the teaching on how to be free of all these opposing tendencies, afflictions, etc. And so, that being the case, we cannot have what is called the fallacy of redundancy. Punarukti dosha. That is because the Gita is a teaching treatise, and so certain repetitions are allowed. But in the same chapter, few verses away, the same word was used. Harsha marsha bhayodvegaihi yo me bhaktas same priyah, yo mad bhaktah same priyah. And here again, same thing. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati. Same thing. The word hrish, which is the same word as harsha, is used. And so we have to find another, way to look at it. And we can look at it from the standpoint of the jnanis, prarabdha unfolding. Yeah. This is itself a very contentious topic. Does the jnani have prarabdha? Prarabdha means a certain karma that is assigned at birth. Something that one has to, what is on your plate, as they say in America, you have to finish what is on your plate. Similarly, prarabdha is a plate of a little smorgasbord of all kinds of experiences that are designed to be consumed and, assimilated in this life alone. Yeah. Most of the time. And sometimes if you abuse your body, if somebody abuses their body and eats too many, what is it called, mono, that some kind of fats that's bad for you, some kind of unsaturated whatever fats, and then get clog up the arteries, and then let's say the person dies away before the allotted time. How can anybody die away before their allotted time? Because one has free will. Yeah. One can, send an invitation to Lord Yama. Quickly can send the invitation and say, Ajao, because one has abused the body through various mechanisms. And then what happens? Let's say the person, dies at 60 and then, was supposed to live to 80. Yeah. Then what happens? Then the person is born again just for 20 years. It is called Shishta Prarabdha. It's that 20-year life is not the new Prarabdha. It's the old Prarabdha that was not used up. But generally, bring such kinds of situations out of the body, suicide, etc. Then what happens? Then, the person is living a full life and goes at the allotted time time allotted by Bhagavan, and whatever experiences that one has to have is based on the results of previous karma, and that previous karma is called prarabdha. That one part of that previous karma that is endured in this life is called prarabdha, stemming from the vyutpatti, the definition arabdham karma. Prak means before. Before the body came, the karma is already there. And that karma designs and chisels the body. Yeah. So that karma itself is pre-existing the body-mind complex. It has a big say in shaping what kind of body the person is going to have, what kind of mind, what kind of senses, whether the mind is going to be in the body of a frog, in the body of a human being, etc. And so this is something which is called prarabdha. Now, in the case of a samsari, the person who is given to all this harsha, vimarsha, all these things, conflict-ridden life of, experiences of alternating experiences of sorrow, strife, conflict, joy, fear, etc. In this kind of a life, what happens? The prarabdha is what is called, the prarabdha is also, eking itself out, is exhausting. But in the process, the person is interfering with the prarabdha because they are not accepting whatever comes. And because they are not accepting whatever comes, they are trying to change the world and their own lives to be more conducive to, in tandem with their ragadveshas, with their likes and dislikes. And so therefore what happens? Therefore, this is something, what happens is a very difficult scenario, because that prarabdha is constantly queried. Yeah. And that prarabdha then morphs into further karma, because that other karma that I have one has engaged in because one cannot accept the prarabdha, what happens to that becomes agami karma. It joins the sanchita after birth, and it becomes raw material for more prarabdha. So, and when you look at the prarabdha, there are different kinds of prarabdha. You thought already there are threefold karmas, prarabdha, that I come with, sanchita, the big, mother lode of all karmas that is standing in abeyance. Mother lode, pun intended, LODE, LOAD, both, there's a big load of karma there, that is called sanchita, out of which a small ball is broken off each birth, prarabdha. But the sanchita keeps growing because one does not have acceptance of prarabdha. So one keeps interfering with the prarabdha, unleashing new karma phala, because those karmas are always, not always, most of the time they tend to be against dharma, because I'm in a state of non-acceptance. And so when one is in a state of non-acceptance, one tends to be reactive and sound is there? Did it come back? Yeah, it came back good. See, I got a little excited. There is this little thing here connected to this, and I just pressed it, and then it went away. You see, you discover something new every day. Very nice. So this thing we have to be very careful. I'm going to set it on this side. It's all connected, just like Vedanta. So I'm going to put it somewhere out of reach, so that next time my hands get excited, they don't, inadvertently mute the sound. Okay? Yeah. So this prarabdha. So first so prarabdha, sanchita, agami. Agami is the karma that I gather in this life trying to interfere with the prarabdha, and that joins sanchita. So we thought there are only three kinds of karmas. Well, the prarabdha itself can be divided into many kinds, at least three. Yeah. according to the certain, according to the, what is that? The Brahma Sutras discuss this, certain Puranas discuss this, Dharma Shastras discuss this. So what is this? So there is, one is called Ichha Prarabdha. Ichha Prarabdha means the desires that one has. There is a whole lot of desires that one is born with because of the ignorance, and those desires are called Ichha Prarabdha or Svecha Prarabdha. I'll write this down. So Ichha or Svecha Prarabdha, meaning that one is doing things prompted by one's own desires. This is what is, and those desires are also part of the prarabdha, because how come some people have a desire for music and some others, they just want to be left to themselves with a book, and some other people are very gregarious and look for jobs in big kinds of things, or community organizing, or big public things. And some other people, they just want to be behind the scenes. They will do everything, but they don't want to be in the limelight. So this is all what is called Svecha Prarabdha, Ichha Prarabdha. Because those desires have come from a long time, not just this birth, from other births also. And so the the Prarabdha that unfolds sort of gravitates towards the fulfillment of those kinds of desires. This is called Svecha Prarabdha, or simply Ichha Prarabdha. Then there is another kind of Prarabdha where one does things, but one is not doing things spurred or goaded by the pressure of one's own desires. So then what is the cause for doing things? So one does things in response to the desires of others, usually out of a sense of compassion. So that compassion comes because there is something there that's going on which spurs in oneself an impetus to go beyond just what is like the myopic needs of the body mind sense complex and my life and my family and me, and so there are certain occasions which may be few and far between, but still one is spurred to go beyond this little gated community of the body mind sense complex. Yeah, this little citadel. One is what is that? One is spurred, and one is impelled to go beyond that and respond to the needs of something that is there, which is causing difficulty even to look at it, or which is causing some kind of consternation, or there is a sense of injustice, and that injustice is with such a sense of outrage, because it goes against human values. This is something very important. It goes against the human values of just justice, dharma. This dharma is not something that is taught in Sunday schools or Bala Vihars. Dharma is something that's innate. It is the expression of Bhagavan within. It is available in every heart, unless that heart has been, badly conditioned by other forces, unless that heart has been abused, suppressed, and taken over by adharmic forces, unless, that, barring those kinds of situations, the heart responds to, because there is empathy, the heart responds to the needs of others. Not all the time, but sometimes it does. Because most of the time one lives in fear. No, it's just me. What if I attend to you, what will happen to my needs? So forget whatever is going on with you. It's just me. I live for myself. Me first, me last, me in the middle, You know, it's like Bhagavan declares in the 10th chapter, Aham Adishcha Madhyam cha Bhutanam Anta eva cha. Bhagavan says, I was at the beginning, I am the middle, and I am the end of all beings. And here, this inflated ahankara, without knowing that one is Bhagavan, is also declaring that in his or her own living room, I am the beginning, I am the first, I am the last, I am in the middle, I am everything. So usually that's the tendency that preponderates. But once in a while, the sense of justice, the sense of righteousness, dharma, which is reigning in the heart, takes over and helps one to transcend the body mind sense complex. I mean, we are seeing this in the in the general sense of injustice that people are feeling, folks being stranded in airports and all these things which we are hearing in the news, children being detained, all these things. It spurs that empathy, and it spurs the understanding that this is not dharmic. Whatever may be the intentions of the lawmakers, that's not under discussion here. That's not even the point. The point is, right now there is a need, and the need is to respond to all these people stuck in the airports. And then, so therefore there is, people are willing to give up their time. Nobody said, it's my weekend, and usually in the weekend I watch this TV show and I go to this movie and I spend time with, these people, and I have my dinner and I, have my relaxation time. So I'm not going to do this, and even if one had a routine, one was spurred to go beyond that. And that is also because of a certain prarabdha there. That prarabdha allows one to act. The impetus to act is not primarily one's own desire, but spurred by the needs of, spurred by the impetus to respond to others. And this is called parecha prarabdha. Parecha. So one is icha, and then one is parecha. Para icha means spurred by the needs or the desires, spurred by compassion to respond to the needs or desires of others. Okay? And then finally, a third kind of prarabdha is it's a funny kind of a distinction, because one would think svecha, parecha, so those two are coming in one particular category, things that I do spurred by my own needs, and things that I do spurred by the need to respond to others. That is a very nice, belongs to the same group. The third one is called anishta. Anishta means that which is, undesirable. Undesirable prarabdha. And so you see how this distinction is a little awkward, this categorization, because the first two are diametrically opposed to one another and they belong to the same group, and then the third one is just hanging in there. Anishta means undesirable things. So what does undesirable things have to do with, acting on behalf of oneself or others? Nothing. But that's how it is. So the undesirable prarabdha means papa karma, effects of papas from last life, unfolding, about which one cannot do anything. So this we have seen now, these three kinds of prarabdhas is very clear to see from the standpoint of the samsarin. And so what is the samsarin? Who is the samsarin? One who is in samsara. So the samsarin is responding to these various, kinds of prarabdha. Samsarin responds, and samsarin just says, okay, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. And therefore is just, bashed by the tides of time. And so it's just a situation where one is helplessly going this way or that way. Hrishyati, dveshti, hrishyati, dveshti. Yeah. So when, priyam prapya, when something wonderful happens, wow, fantastic. And then, when something bad happens, horrible. So most of the time, the samsari is, experiencing or going with two kinds of prarabdhas. What is that? Svedcha prarabdha or anishta. So anishta comes, they get upset, svedcha, and then most of the things are spurred by the need to fulfill their own desires. But with the jnani, the jnani doesn't have ichha prarabdha for the most part. Why? Because there is nothing to gain. Because the desires have gone to sleep. The desires are suspended because the desires are not suspended. Badhita. The desires are sublated. It's not that they have ceased to exist, but they have ceased to be a thorn on the side, and they have ceased to create pressures to be fulfilled. They are there. Just like the peacock feather desire. The desire for the peacock feather on part of Lord Krishna is a very good example. So if you take away the peacock feather and if you say, no, it's not yours, it's mine, Lord Krishna is not going to, go to war with you. Not at all. Why? Because it is a sublated desire. Flute, yellow clothes, all these things are sublated desires, and so they are called, in Sanskrit the word sublated is badhita. It is, badhita means it is no longer in operation. It's no longer in operation, and so it's a sublated desire. And if it's a sublated desire, what happens? Then it is not causing a problem for you. And so the jnani, all the desires of the jnani are sublated by the force of the what? By the force of the knowledge. The knowledge is like a paperweight, one of those heavy things. Yeah. Those nowadays we don't have it because we hardly deal in paper. It's all digital. It's all on a small little device smaller than the palm of your hand. It's all there. iPod, iPad, iPhone, it's all there. And so therefore nobody knows, even perhaps the new generation of children, if you ask them what is a paperweight, they will not know. But we are familiar with this. In these old archaic offices, you would find these big kind of a globe with a flat bottom, very heavy, made of some kind of a glass with some design in the middle. And then, you kind of plonk that on a sheaf of paper that you don't want it to fly away. It's very useful because in the hot months you have to have the ceiling fan on, and then the papers fly around everywhere. So every office will have this big paperweight to keep the important papers from flying away. And so the knowledge of the Shastra is like that. It is it's like a paperweight that stops all this, the leaves of desires, the sheafs of paper, which is in the form of desires, from flying around and creating a nuisance. So it's not that the desires have gone away, but they are now comely. Now they are curtailed. They have been, put in place. They are in place. They are not causing an uproar. They are not causing disturbance to the life. Because the Shastra is heavy. The Shastra is Guru, pun intended. And Guru means heavy, Guru means Guru. And so the Shastra is Guru, and and all these small desires. Because the desires being mithya, the teaching is able to take care of them. And so the jnani has no ichha prarabdha at all. Nothing to gain. And this was talked about in the 3rd chapter by Lord Krishna. He says, na avaptavyam, nanavaptavyam, na avaptavyam, nothing to gain for me. I have nothing to gain. Trishu lokeshu kinchana, in all the 3 worlds, O Arjuna. Nothing is there. I have no desire to gain anything. And then what? But I am still engaged in action. Even though I have nothing to gain, I have no desires that, that are worth talking about. because all the desires are sublated under the paperweight of the jnanam that I am the whole. So when you know that you are the whole, there is nothing to desire, because all desires are for this, for gaining this sense of wholeness. So the sense of wholeness, that is the only desire, and that desire is morphed because I don't know that I have this desire. So that desire gets morphed into all kinds of small and big things, which is this is the effect of adhyasa. And so therefore what? So he says, Bhagavan Krishna says, Name parthasti kaschana. I have nothing to do here. Trishu lokeshu kinchana. Name partha asti kartavyam. Trishu lokeshu kinchana. In all the three worlds, I have nothing to do. I have nothing to gain. Nanavaptam avaptavyam. I have nothing to fulfill. I have nothing to shun. Then what? Varta eva cha karmani. But I'm still engaged in action. Why? Are you mad? If you have nothing to gain, why don't you just relax? Why are you still engaged in action? Yadi aham na varteham jatu karmani tandritah mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah utsideyu ime lokaha na kuryat karma chedaham sankarasya kartasyam upahanyam imaf prajaha. Very nice section there. So the Lord Krishna says that if I am not engaged in action, what will happen? What will happen is that everybody will follow my lead. Why? Because I'm a Shrestha. I'm a leader, and everybody follows the lead because I'm an exalted being, and people around me are closely watching what I do and what I say, and they follow my lead. And then what happens? Utsideyuhu, and they become lazy. Lazy means they become indifferent to anything that needs to be done in the world, because there's things that need to be done. Until one has the knowledge, one had better be engaged in righteous actions. That is the whole idea. So until one becomes a jnani, the injunction of the Bhagavad Gita is that you be engaged in dharmic actions, and you dedicate those actions to the Lord and take whatever comes as prasada. This should be the lifestyle, the demeanor of how to live. And then what happens? And here Lord Krishna is talking from the standpoint of a jnani. Yadi aham na varteyam jatu karmani tandritah. If I don't seem to be engaged in action all the time, then utsideyuhu ime lokaha. All the people will just become lazy, negligent. Sankarasya kartasyam. I become the cause of confusing the people. I become the cause of confusion in the society. Upahanyam imaf prajaha, and then destroy the subjects. He's speaking as a king, he's speaking as Bhagavan, both. And so I will destroy, verily, I will destroy my own subjects if I don't engage in action. So the jnani also is in a similar situation many times. And, depending upon the prarabdha of the jnani, so the parecha prarabdha quotient, if it is a lot, if it is strong, then the jnani will seemingly be engaged in action without doing anything, of course, because that kartritvam, that sense of doership, is not there. So for the jnani, the svecha prarabdha, big grass, because there is nothing to gain. And so what about parecha prarabdha? That may be predominant, may not be predominant. Some jnanis might just go and sit in a cave and not come out, except for meals. And then other jnanis seem to be doing things from day and night, year after year, hour after hour, month after month. They don't seem to rest at all. Like our Pujya Swamiji. I mean, so much he did, so much he continued to do till his last breath. He was engaged in action. Again, we should say, parecha prarabdhat, because of the prarabdha of the people. His own prarabdha, yes, his own prarabdha was to be able to respond to others. A role that he fulfilled very, very beautifully till the last breath. And that is because the parecha prarabdha was very predominant. And if the parecha prarabdha is very predominant, the jnani will be seen as though to be engaged in action, but for the sake of the well-being of the people, which is the Sanskrit term for that is loka sangraha. So for the sake of loka sangraha, for the sake of the initiate actions for the well-being of people, these actions are done. Now what is the connection to this verse? Yo na hrishyati. So now, if you have nothing to gain and you're helping someone else, there is no cause for elation, because you're in a place to help and you're able to help, and so you are helping. And there is no cause for, feeling dvesha. Dvesha means hating what you do because you're doing it for the sake of somebody else. You have nothing to gain. So there is no hrishyati and no dveshti, because the ragadveshas are also sublated for the jnani. The ragadveshas are the raw materials for the desires. So the raw materials for the desires are not in operation, correct? And then what? And the what's its name? The harsha, the elation is not there, and the actions are undertaken for the sake of helping somebody. And there's always, when you help somebody from a standpoint of unconditional, compassion, then, you're not overly attached to the outcome. I have to have this. It's not there, because you're trying to help somebody else. And so if it works, it works. If not, okay, we try something else. You have a certain dispassion there. And of course, the jnani's dispassion is total. And so therefore, there is no dvesha, no raga there. Na krishyati, na hrishyati. So if something the jnani starts, let's say the jnani starts a big movement, like there was one Swami in the freedom movement. Swami Karpatra, he was called, and he started some very big, he used the Bhagavad Gita to start some, to inspire the people to wake up and throw off the shackles of the British. And so he was he was the inspiration for a number of freedom fighters. But then, he was not so attached to the outcome. So that is what the thing is. So na hrishyati. And then the third form of prarabdha, anishta. Anishta means things which you don't like that come as a result of previous karma. Disease comes, old age comes, all kinds of things come, and adversarial situations come, and when those are there, nadveshti, does not the jnani bhakta here, the jnani bhakta does not become resentful. Yeah, there is no resentment, and neither there is elation. There is no elation, there is no resentment. Yeah, resentment, hostility is not there. Hostility is not there, and then when the undesirable happens, there is no what's the word for it? Rejection of that. So there is no regret, there is no suffering. The suffering may be there, but the suffering is only connected to the discomfort of the body. It does not affect the Atma, and one who knows that, the mind is calm for the one who knows that. Yeah, and so that is so na hrishyati, na dveshti. Next one, na shochati, another pair, na shochati, na kankshati. Shochati, grieves. Kankshati, sits in expectancy of something. Na shochati, na kankshati. Does not grieve, or is not expecting something different to happen. So that is the Jnani Bhakta, does not grieve. We have seen we had a big discussion on grief in the Kathopanishad, few days back, last week. And so what else can I add to this? Grief is the lakshana of samsara. That you have to understand. Grief is the lakshana of samsara. If there is grief, that is, the hallmark of a samsari, and that grief is because of self-ignorance. Yeah. And the whole Bhagavad Gita is centered on this removal of this grief. It starts with, see, this is something which one has to understand. If grief is real, it cannot be removed, because swabhavasya na nivrittihi. If grief is real, it cannot be removed. If grief is unreal, what are we doing here? You can't remove a non-existent thing. You can't remove an existent thing. And so where shall we put grief? Mithya. It is neither existent nor can you say it is non-existent. How can something be neither existent nor non-existent? That is mithya. Yeah, you call up Maya and ask. You call up Bhagavan's Shakti and ask, how come you can do something like this? That even though it's non-existent, it is affecting me. Like the rope snake has bitten me and I'm dying of a toxic shock. How is that possible? Rope snake has no venom. First of all, it's not a snake. Second of all, it doesn't have venom. Third of all, most importantly, it cannot bite. But still, I'm bitten by the rope snake and I need an antidote. Yeah. As though that's what it is. So this is the conviction of the grieving person. The grieving person is convinced that I have been bitten. But when you examine the bite, and when you examine the grief, and when you examine the ahankara that's holding on to the grief, the I notion that holds on to the grief, or rather is held by the grief, when you examine that, you see there is no grief. There is no grief at all. What grief? This is just to be brief. There is no grief. Yeah. What grief? Grief is such that it runs away as soon as you turn the light of Viveka in the room. In this room here. Headroom, yeah. In the room, you turn on the light of Viveka. We are not even talking of full-fledged Jnanam. You just apply some Viveka, some discrimination to see who is the one who is grieving. Why am I grieving? What is this grief? Where is it coming from? You see, it has no existence. Like the cockroaches, fly away, run away as soon as you turn on the light. Cockroaches, ants, whatever is there, some bugs. So the bugs are there because the house is dark, the room is dark, and then when you come in from outside, you open your door, you unlock and open your door. And for the noise itself, some scurry away. But those that are little more brazen and left behind, you turn on the light, and then they will all, run away. Grief is like that. It cannot be established. That you are a grieving person is not possible to establish it at all. Why? The simple fact of sleep. Yeah, every day you sleep. No, but every day I sleep with great difficulty because I'm crying into my pillow. That's all right, but you cried into your pillow. But after that, what happened? I don't know what happened. I just went to sleep. See? That's what it is. In sleep, no one cries. Yeah. In sleep, no one cries. Waking, crying happens simultaneously. Oh no, what day is it? Oh no, oh my God, I'm still here. Why am I still here? What a terrible life. So what is this grief? That is available in the waking state, but not in the sleep state. This Vyabhichara itself, chases away the notion that grief is permanent. Grief is not permanent at all. In fact, grief is not even temporary. It has no existence per se. Then why am I afflicted? One is afflicted because of one's own inability to embrace one's glory. That is why the affliction happens. The affliction is not because there is someone coming and sitting on my head and then, preventing me from doing what I want. That is just the superficial understanding that the world is in my way. People are in my way. If this person was not there, I would have become famous. If that person was not there, I would have been happier. And this is what everybody thinks. The married person thinks, I made a big mistake. I should have remained single. Look at all the single people. They are so happy. They don't have to deal with this big egos of the other person and their family and everything. Every married person has a secret thought. I wish I had not married. And then every single person has another secret thought. I wonder how it would have been if I had found a nice life partner, somebody to share things with, somebody to grow with, because it's so boring to grow alone and so difficult. Somebody to just, attend Vedanta classes with, because that's also a spiritual fantasy of many people. They say, why don't you please do something? They ask me, why don't you please do something to bring my husband here? I said, you come here, it's enough. Don't worry about your husband. And less frequently people say, do something to bring my wife here. What can you do to help my wife, get this knowledge? I can't do anything, but you can, I tell them. Oh, what can I do, they ask, to bring my spouse to this knowledge? You hurry up and gain the knowledge. You get jnanam. And the jnani is the most contagious thing in the universe. It beats Zika, it beats, the contagion of the jnani beats all kinds of communicable, infectious, contagious diseases that are there. Ebola, this, that, everything. Yeah, it's the most contagious thing. Oh, does it spread by touch? The jnani doesn't even need to touch you to touch you. It's a different kind of touch. Yeah, that is the truth. Because, when you are transformed by the Bhagavad Gita, by the Bodhasara, by the Kathopanishad, by the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, by anything that we study, and don't think that the spouse is indifferent to this. The spouse is just watching you to see what effect it is having on you, the study of the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, just to test you, they may even tell, see, you're getting angry. 3 years you've been studying Bhagavad Gita. What has happened? Nothing has happened. But don't be goaded by those kinds of, little baits. Yeah. When you are steadfast in your knowledge, it shows. And even when you're in the process of knowing, when you start becoming more responsive, more available, less reactive, less, irritable, more compassionate, more reaching out, more willing to adjust, accommodate, more accommodative, more willing to drop certain things, including notions, pet peeves. The spouse who was resistant to the Bhagavad Gita will start encouraging you to go to the classes. Please go to more classes. How come you're not having a retreat? How long has it been since you had a retreat? Please go. Please learn. And then a day will come where they will also want this knowledge. They may not be, able to sit in the class, but they will certainly ask you, what have you studied? Can you please share that with me? This is the most contagious condition. This being, the condition of being a jnani is just so attractive. And because it attracts universally, it's not just in one, because India has Bhagavad Gita and only in India it will be there. No, the jnani is, the jnani is revered everywhere. There is a Subhashita, a saying, Swadeshe pujyate Raja, Vidwan sarvatra pujyate. So the Raja, the king, is well known, worshipped, adored in his own territory. He steps out of the kingdom, he may as well be a commoner, nobody even recognizes him. But Vidwan, the wise person, the one who has self-knowledge here, is sarvatra pujyate. Wherever they go, they become, the jnani becomes a very attractive prospect. Attractive because that nature attracts. Why does it attract? Because it's my own, as of yet, undiscovered nature. So the jnani attracts very much because of that the power of just being, without needing to just fulfill every single desire that is hurtling itself in the consciousness. No, in the mind. No, there is nothing to fulfill, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. And so, back to the discussion on shochati. Shochati means grief. So the jnani has no grief. Jnani has no grief at all, because that grief cannot be what? Established as an existent entity. It cannot be established. You try in any which way, it cannot be established. And also, it cannot be dismissed as a non-existent entity. Why? Because tears come. Yeah, unbidden they come. And they come because of wrong conclusions. They come because of wrong identifications, where the ahankara has gone awry and the ahankara is attaching itself to various little things, letting go of the biggest thing, which is the truth of itself. So the ahankara has to be walked back from holding on to all these small things to its own glory. That is what the job of the Shastra and the Guru are, to hand walk the ahankara back to its own glory. And that is why grief cannot be dismissed, grief cannot be determined to be existent on its own. It is like everything else in the universe, it is mithya. So then for mithya removal, you need a mithya sadhana, mithya guru, mithya shishya, mithya shastra, everything is mithya. Yeah. So because that is what it is, that's how it operates. And because it has to be from its own level, it has to give that, vritti jnanam, it gives that knowledge that whatever I thought I was is wrong. And that is why the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita begins with a beautiful verse in the second chapter, in the 11th verse. Ashocyan anvashocastvam pragyavadamscha bhashate. The Lord tells Arjuna, after hearing his rant, one and a quarter chapters, the whole of the first chapter and a little bit of the second chapter, he's raving and ranting and hyperventilating. And so, what happens? Ashocyan anvashocastvam, Bhagavan says. The problem is you are grieving over that which does not deserve grief. Very funny way to put it. In other words, you should not be sad. Who says that to a sad person? If you say that to a sad person, then the person will not just be sad but will be angry also. Who are you to tell me I shouldn't be sad? Because the identification is complete. But here Bhagavan can say this because Bhagavan is, he has declared himself to be a student. Shishyastheham shadhimam tvam prapannam. I am your Shishya. Please help me. I have surrendered to you. And so therefore, very objectively Bhagavan, makes a point of understanding the problem. What is the problem? The problem is that I have no, that I'm grieving over that which should not be grieved. But what do you mean it should not be grieved? It doesn't deserve grief. So what doesn't deserve grief? Here, what is Arjuna grieving over? He's grieving over not the war so much, but the effects of the war. Because he doesn't grieve over war. He's a warrior. He has fought many wars in his lifetime. So he's grieving over the effects of the war, which is just widespread devastation and death. No, if he is a warrior, wouldn't he have seen widespread devastation and death? Yes. Then what's the difference between the devastation and death in those wars and in the impending battle of Kurukshetra, of which he is so much against? What is the difference? The difference is merely the ahankara is much more involved with the people on the other side. In other wars, the people on the other side were strangers, enemies. Who are these people? They are frenemies. A new word. Friendly enemies, meaning people who are friends first and now they have become enemies, or they are friendly and they are inimical. So this is what it is. All the people who he calls Mamakaha, that is why the Bhagavad Gita begins like this. Dharma kshetre Kurukshetre samavetaha yuyutsavaha Mamakaha pandavaschaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra asks in the same tone. Dhritarashtra is also under the same delusion that Arjuna is operating under. Same thing. He says Sanjaya because he cannot see. He has put Sanjaya to look at the battlefield and tell him what's going on. So Mamakaha, so among the people that are assembled there for the fight, for the war, tell me what each one is doing. Tell me what Mamakaha, my people are doing, and those Pandavas over there, what are they doing? In fact, all the Pandavas, including Arjuna, had played in Dhritarashtra's lap, had been brought up in the same palace. Everyone. But suddenly there is this division. And the division is just by the utterance of one word, mine and not mine. Whenever that mine word comes, ahankara is in operation. Not mine, ahankara is in operation. So Arjuna's grief is not because there is death and devastation, not so much, but it's the death and devastation of the people he loves. My people. That is what the problem is. And Lord Krishna hones in on this very beautifully. And therefore he says, Ashocyan anvashochastvam. You are talking very big words. Prajna vadamscha bhashase. You are talking apparently, seemingly wise words. In other words, the person who talks wisdom and wise words is called a pandita. But yet, you are grieving over that which cannot be, should not, does not deserve grief. Why? Because if you are indeed a pandita, gatasoon agatasumscha na anushochanti panditaha. The wise ones don't grieve over things that cannot be altered. Gatasoon agatasoon means with regard to people living or people dead, cannot, that does not, deserve grief. Because death and life are just a part of the vast law of the unfolding universe. Later in the same chapter, he's going to say, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Tasmad apariharyerthe natvam shochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to grieve here, Arjuna. Because that which is born comes with a expiry date. That which is gone is born again. Because that is the law of nature. Karma, etc. It gets a new body. That which is gone is born again. That which is born comes with a shelf life and expiry date after which it self-destructs. Nothing you can do. The best medicines, the best doctors, even if the war had been prevented, in Arjuna's case, even if the war had been prevented, nothing could have been done because that is how the law is. And so the law is such that the law has unfolded, it is unfolding itself. And so therefore there is no reason to grieve. This is the vision, that there is never a reason to grieve. But then one cannot really assimilate this without becoming a jnani. Because the grief comes, pain comes, sorrow comes. So the lakshana of the jnani here, who is a bhakta, and the bhakti comes, why? Because you see everything. The jnani is seeing everything as an incarnation of Ishvara. And if Ishvara is there, then you see Ishvara in the loss, in fear, in death, in devastation. You see Bhagavan everywhere. And that is what is called, that is the nashocha. Ashocyan anvashochastvam. And your problem, Arjuna, is that you have wrongly identified yourself as, the keepers or the preservers of these people on the other side, or attached or connected somehow to the people on the other side. That's why you are grieving. And so that verse which starts there, the discussion of no shoka goes all the way to the last chapter. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma ashuchah. Ma ashuchah. Don't grieve. Why? Because I am the altar of surrender for that grief. What to do with that grief? That can neither be established nor be dismissed. Give it to me. Choose me as the altar of surrender. And then when I am the altar, me means not Lord Krishna, Bhagavan. Choose Bhagavan as the altar of surrender. And when Bhagavan is the altar of the grief gets a makeover. Yeah, it makes way to that sahaja joy, to that natural ananda that is already there. In fact, that ananda alone is supporting the grief one understands. And so therefore what? So this the Jnani Bhakta here has no shoka, na shochati, and then what? Na kankshati. May not have shoka, but is hoping for a better life, is hoping for a better time to come. No, there is no expectations because there is nothing to expect. When will my punya fructify? No, let me look at my horoscope and see what next year, 2017, what does it hold for me? No, because that's what is talked about. Shubha Shubha Parityagi. There is no akanksha, there is no expectancy for a better tomorrow. And there are no notions of bad day, good day, auspicious, inauspicious, everything. Shubha Shubha Parityagi, this dyad of good and bad, auspicious, inauspicious, lucky, unlucky, is all given up in the wake of the understanding that I am the most auspicious thing. Shivoham, Shivoham. I'm the most auspicious thing. So therefore what? So therefore there is no need to look for anything more auspicious other than understand myself. This is what the whole thing is. Shubha Shubha Parityagi, because there is no akanksha for anything. There is no wish for anything. Because the losses are seen as an everyday occurrence. And na kankshati, there is no expectancy because there is alam bhava, alam buddhi. Alam buddhi means whatever I get is enough. Whatever I get is enough. There is nothing more to desire. And therefore, there is no, there is no sense of trying to strive for something else. And therefore, Shubha Shubha Parityagi. Since I don't want punya, and since I don't want to avoid papa and gain more punya, there is no more incentive to look for a good time to do something. For when is a good time to eat? When is a good time to do anything? Every time is a good time because it's all Bhagavan. So there is no need for performing actions for the sake of punya or to avoid papa karma because there is nothing to gain. Yeah. So, because the punya gives sukha, but the person himself is sukha swarupa. And so therefore there is no need to gain something else other than oneself really for this. So, Shubha Shubha Parityagi. And what was the last line? Let us see. Shubha Shubha Parityagi Bhaktiman. The one endowed with devotion. Saha me priyaha. That person, Lord Krishna says, is beloved to me, beloved to me. Why? Because that person is myself alone in essence. Is not anyone other than myself. Yeah. Next one. Samashatrau cha mitre cha तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समः संग विवर्जितः समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समः संग विवर्जितः Samaha. Samaha means same. Same means what? Equanimity. With reference to Shatru. Someone who is inimical, an enemy. Mitram. Someone who is a friend. Same. Who has who has the same kind of bearing, same kind of behavior, same kind of greeting, the friend as well as the foe. Tatha, in the same manner, mana and apamanayoho. Mana means with reference to what is that called? Reward, not even reward, that, you get some certificate, honors. Yeah, with reference to mana, sammana, you get honors, you get, all kinds of things, honors. And then apamana, with regard to any kind of experiences of insult and disgrace. So whether it is honor or whether it is disgrace, there is samatvam. And then whether it's a shatru or a mitra, there is samatvam. And then second line, Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu api samatvam. So with regard to first, line has to do with the mental temperament of samatvam. And then here, the mental temperament extends to one's own body, because, that's where the samatvam is very easily disturbed. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu. When the uncomfortable situations are endured by the body, one can easily lose the samatvam, not the jnani bhakta. So Shita, cold, Ushna, hot, Sukha, some kind of a conducive situation, Dukkha, unconducive situation. In all those places, with regard to all those situations, Samaha. And then finally, Sangha Vivarjitaha. Sangha Vivarjitaha means devoid of any kind of attachment or involvement to things, people, situations, and wanting things to be a certain way. Yeah, so we will, have looked at this. We'll discuss this in detail in the next class. That's going to happen on the 4th of February, Saturday, the 4th of February, and it's going to be at the regular time, which is the Pacific time from 9:30 a.m. to 12 noon on 4th Feb. Okay? Yeah. So this class will meet. So that time I hope to finish this, the last two verses, and then we can go back to the Bodhasara text and continue from there. That is at least the intention. We'll see how it goes. Okay? Yeah. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah, the next class is on Tuesday, which is Kathopanishad, not Shvetashvatara, Kathopanishad, because little more love and care we will give that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Nice to see all of you here. Ah, Jay Prakash is here. Very nice. So many people. Very nice. Wonderful. Shin Shin has also come, along with all the usual suspects. Yes. Very nice to see all of you. Keep coming, keep taking. The next class will also be on live stream and this. So the link for that is okay. Yeah. You can look at that. Very nice. Good night, Lata. Om Ramagiri. Namaste. Shivani is here. Everybody is here. Wonderful. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Nice. What a nice thing to say. Very nice to see you too, Malati. Take care. Yeah, Charu is also here. Very good. Om.